The hockey team, the Los Angeles Kings, shared a Facebook post in support of International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, saying hate has no place in hockey. And somebody commented and said, sorry, as a Christian, I don't hate them at all. I just can't follow down that road according to Romans chapter 1, verses 26 through 32. So I made a LA Kings Facebook page and responded.
This is comedian Ben Palmer, and he's back at it again in a masterclass of trolling people on the internet.
And said Romans was written in 57 AD, when girls could be married at the age of 12. If you had a baby back then and couldn't afford it, you could just leave it on the street for somebody else to take. Are you aligned with those views as well? And they wrote back and said, I believe in heaven and hell. I believe Jesus rose again, and I follow the laws of my country today. If my country tells me to break my God's laws, please believe when I say I won't follow that law.
As he is accustomed to doing on his socials, Palmer beautifully rebukes the responses he always gets.
According to Leviticus 19:19, God's law says not to wear clothing woven from two different kinds of material. You'll have to return that 50% cotton, 50% polyester LA King shirt you bought from us.
Just flat out brilliant. But it does raise the question, why are so many in this space as sports fans so against the LGBTQ community? Carl Nassib came out last year. He was the first openly gay NFL player to do so. It was a milestone. We have seen athletes in the past come out during their playing days. Megan Rapinoe of the United States women's national team, Jason Collins in the National Basketball Association, Robbie Rogers with the United States men's soccer team. And yet sports still feels behind. Locker rooms remain less inclusive of LGBTQ people than places like schools or workplaces, and though many sports teams and figures have publicly campaigned against homophobia and transphobia, half of LGBTQ respondents in our recent study said that they'd experienced discrimination, insults, bullying, or abuse while playing, watching, or talking about sports, wrote Rachel Allison and Chris Nestor. They are both associate professors of sociology at Division I schools. For the study, we surveyed 4,000 U.S. adults and asked them whether they'd been mistreated in various sports-related contexts. We also asked them whether they believe LGBT athletes were unwelcome in sports. We found that this sort of personal mistreatment, whether it's bullying or insults, is a relatively common experience in sports. 36% of U.S. adults said they had experienced some form of it, but LGBTQ adults were particularly likely to have fallen into this camp, with half of adults who identify as gay, lesbian, bi, or another non-hetero identity responding that they were personally mistreated. About 60% of non-binary adults in the survey said that they'd experienced sports-related mistreatment, while 30% of heterosexuals somewhat or strongly agreed that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans athletes are not welcome in sports. 45% of adults who identified as a sexual minority did so. About 42% of non-binary adults felt that these athletes aren't welcomed in sports. As recently as this past Pride Month, members of the Tampa Bay Rays decided collectively to project wearing rainbow colors, citing their religion. They gave answers of not judging and Jesus is the way, while oppressing an already disenfranchised community. Jeff Molina, a UFC fighter, faced backlash for wearing pride shorts in the octagon. In soccer, recall Hungarian fans when the national team took the pitch. Nationalists unfurled this banner reading anti-LMBTQ, which is the Hungarian abbreviation for LGBTQ. German keeper Manuel Neuer kept his rainbow-themed captain's armband on. They saw Neuer, the legend himself, donning the armband and told the German Football Association they will be investigating the captain and the rainbow because it is political. UEFA then blocked Germany from displaying the national team stadium, Allianz Arena, with rainbow colors. They claim Germany is rubbing Hungary's faces in it. Prior to this, though, Hungary Prime Minister Viktor Orban passed anti-LGBTQ laws. In hockey, Cadian Shaw, a gay fan, was attacked when 3 Colorado Avs fans started beating him up. Shaw recalled the anti-gay slurs flying endlessly. Shaw's 2 girlfriends and some bystanders eventually chased his aggressors away, and that night Shaw went to bed with some bruises and a knot in the back of his head. When he woke up the next morning, he started to piece together what had happened. The Pride nights and stuff really aren't enough. Are people speaking up when they hear slang in the stands or in the urinal during intermission, Shaw said? Do people speak up when they hear that language in those settings? far too often, casual homophobia is portrayed as an accepted part of male sports culture. While there's an increased focus to stamp it out amongst players, the fans are part of the game too, wrote Outsports. Via the two professors, once more, sports continue to play an important role in the development and communication of a masculine identity, and ideas of what it means to be a man are still intertwined with heterosexuality. So the sort of mistreatment and abuse that can be experienced by LGBTQ people on the playing fields and in the stands could be part of a conscious or subconscious effort by others to police gender and sexual boundaries.